America first.
What do you want me to do? You want me to baby him and coddle him like everyone else around here is doing, huh? You want me to tell him how wonderful he is and forget about all the misery that he caused this family? You want me to start throwing parties for him? Well, no one ever threw a party for me! And I've been the good guy! I've been the good guy!
Travis Wayne Goodsell. Okay, Idaho Chick. This is part 2 of last night's video. So we have Idaho Chick's comment that we're going over, and then we're going to get into a discussion about what happens now with Oaks coming out on the 2nd of January threatening to murder everybody on Easter. Now that ties in to Oaks's confession that they have rigged our presidential elections for the purpose of getting their kingdom back. And so we'll start off with a comment on my Utah ICE to raid LDS Mormon Church's Welfare Square, which as of last night was still the #1 viewed video. We have Helen Dewars, who makes a comment, "What you do unto the least of these, thy brethren, you do it unto me." And so I'm not sure who she's talking to as a judge. But this happens to religious fanatics who are illiterate of their scriptures and take context out to apply it for their intended purposes. This is a common thing since the first creed of Christianity, and is in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But I don't know if she's Mormon. I don't know if she's a Christian. I don't know who she is. This is her first video that she ever came to. And so there's some missing information regarding what her comment is directed to. Is it directed to Trump for ICE raids? Because the guy said, yeah, we've resumed day one, as we were ordered by Trump to start the raids. So apparently the raids are going on. It's just the news doesn't know about where they're going on yet. There is action in preparation at the border, but as of last night, nobody seems to be clear on what actually has happened in regards to the raids. Is it the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints' leadership that she's talking about, who are criminal in operation? I don't know. There is a federal lawsuit going on right now in which Mormons and former Mormons are suing the corporation of the president for frauding membership. Judge Shelby, I found out is the judge, is the one making this decision. And it is, it was Saturday when I saw it reported. And here we are on Wednesday. And so a decision could come out today. There's a sign in the heavens that says, yes, there will be a judgment today of a religion. As the moon has been falling, it's been aborted from Virgo. And it is at the top of the scales of Libra now, which is the judgment scales. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if there's a judgment today by Judge Shelby. Or is she talking about me? And so yeah, the church, by the way, is still pumping up the stock market, because Trump has not made the massive raid that he promised. That it seems to be somewhat of a secret, normal conditions raids. And Trump also postponed tariffs until February 1st. And so, yeah, he failed to do everything he intended to do on that first day. And that's what we're going to come up with, discuss more with Oaks. So it is interesting. Pay attention to the stock market. If Judge Shelby comes against the church, you're likely to see a stock sell-off, because the church is going to try to take the money and run. Just saying. Just saying. However, apparently, Yahoo Finance, which I don't know how trustworthy they should be, yesterday talked about the threat of immigration raids turns Chicago hub into a ghost town. As I do see a vehicle in the middle of the road, and it looks like another one behind it. It's not a ghost town. I see cars parked along the stores. Do you not know what a ghost town is, guys? Do you not know? Oh. Yeah, those shouldn't have been... Huh. Yeah. All of you need to go into this file. Not you. You up there. You over there. Conform and comply. Okay. So, Idaho chick promised me that she was going to hook me up with her hot friends. Are you lonesome tonight? Are you feeling alright? And wouldn't you know it, she's kind of popular. What's up with that, Idaho chick? And so, yeah, the 45 to 54-year-olds just skyrocketed after she promised to hook me up with her friends, which is very weird. And apparently, some of those women also are including their daughters. But none of them, unless Helen is one of them, have been reaching out to communicate. They're all pretending to be shy and timid, not letting themselves be known other than through the analytics. But, yeah, it doesn't do me any good if the women are just checking me out and judging me according to their spiritual witness feelings. It doesn't work. You gotta communicate. You gotta be bold. And it's sad. The church, being a patriarchal, abusive organization, has threatened women to remain silent in this church, that they have to be submissive to their husbands, who have to do all the work to court them and marry them and prostitute them with the tithing money. And so this abusive culture tends to create the dichotomous behavior of women to either be shy and timid and reserved, or like Idaho chick, independent, free-thinking, troublemaking. As those who are shy and timid want to be like Idaho chick. If I could be like Idaho chick. And so, yeah, it's a situation where Mormons just need to be freed from the bondage of this church and the abuse that they do. And the article about the BYU professors being abused by Gilbert, they were all refusing to be interviewed. And they were afraid of being retaliated against. And so people should not be threatened when it's a religion. But the church is not a religion, it's a corporation, which makes it even worse because it's workplace abuse. And they have the human resources, but it's not intended for the membership. So, Idaho chick commented on 2 LDS Mormon church apostles caught at a Klan rally. And then my church news video last night. Stevenson. Naughty boy. He tried to justify being at a Klan rally by talking about the symbolism of flags. And had some of his own. But that's the sad situation. I tried for the longest time to let the doctrinal errors, the scriptural errors of the leaders of the church at conferences, I just tried to let it go. And I just, when I found out Brigham Young murdered Joseph Smith, I can't. Especially after I then found the signed receipt by all 15 under Monson in 2008, ordering and paying for my assassination. This church has no claims to anything. They need to be locked up for a millennium. So maybe today, doubtful. I think he's Mormon, isn't he? He should have recused himself. But then who else is going to do it? So, it's sad that you get people who are defrauding members into believing that they're a religion, defrauding the government into believing they're a religion, when their articles of incorporation say that they're a corporation, not a religion. That the religion was dissolved in 1887 with the Edmunds-Tucker Act, and they never restored a religion. And so these men are just corporate leaders who are making up their own doctrine for the membership. And that's why they're so abusive, as they are following the lead of evangelicals after 1900. And that's where all the abuse comes from. All the violations of the Book of Mormon and of Joseph Smith, with the forged documents of Brigham Young, confusing Mormons into believing that they were from Joseph Smith. And you get many people who say, that's not right. And instead of saying, wait a minute, this goes against the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith, they believe the church's lies, that it's from Joseph Smith, and therefore they leave blaming Joseph Smith and not Brigham Young as the one who forged the documents. Anyway, Idaho chick, and she had to edit it. So many citizens clapping and excited at all the executive orders. Yeah. You know, going over some of them yesterday in part one, seeing how Trump is pushing the KKK agenda, America First. It really is horrifying. These kinds of things are well known in our society, and yet somehow there's now a disconnect. That when a president declares openly he's a part of the KKK, but because of the wording, people just ignore it and let it go. We have been dominated by fascism in America. Our government has fallen. Our Constitution has fallen. We are all in great jeopardy. And I just cringe. You had CNN, who had a religious leader trying to claim that Trump is not religious according to his version of Christianity. And you had the pastor of the church that Trump went to Inauguration Day who pleaded with Trump to be merciful to immigrants and LGBTQ, I think, as she's female. And that would not have gone over well with Trump. And Christians are helping to spread this confusion and chaos. Obviously, your Christianity is not the same as other Christianity groups. You can't use your Christianity as a judge upon other Christianity. So when Trump gets up there and invokes God, he's specifically talking about his version of God, which allows him to commit crimes. As he would say that his ear was blown off because God spared his life. So that he could then do MAGA's agenda. When you get a person that's fanatical like that, they use religion to back them up, to cause their holy wars, their holy contentions. And so, yeah, it is sad that people are cheering for evil, that they're not able to discern between good and evil, that taking away the life, liberty, and property of other people does not make you good. It makes you the enemy. Especially when you're in a position of power that is supposed to grant life, liberty, and property to others. She says, while I can understand the sentiment and first thought of, oh, the economy should get better. Pay attention. Pay attention to the stock market, because the corporations, the Church of Jesus Christ, are the major stockholders in these companies. And once Trump issues the tariffs, you're going to see the tanking of the economy. And they're going to use that to justify raising prices, screwing over their employees, screwing over customers, not just with higher priced products, but also poorer quality products, so that they can make as much money as possible. This is what we're about to face, and it's going to hit us like a falling brick from over 200 feet. Or a tougher border should be a priority. Yeah, MAGA have purposely weaponized the border. Congress is responsible for immigration. Congress, not the president, Congress. If the judges are overwhelmed, Congress is required to put out more justices. That's Senate's job to do so. If it's a matter of justices not following the law, again, Congress's responsibility to regulate immigration and the process for it. That's all on Congress. It's not the president. It's right there in the Constitution. The president is the commander-in-chief, and this is why they're weaponizing the border, is that they're saying that those who are getting across America outside of the border ports are criminals, cartels, and rapists and sex traffickers and kidnappers, murderers. And so you have Fox News focusing on any news about an undocumented person who commits a crime in any of the cities in America. And they blow it up out of proportion to say that the whole border is to blame, and therefore the president needs to act and be the commander-in-chief and do an executive order of a national security threat, and that's exactly what Trump did. And so there really isn't a national security threat at the border. It's just intentionally been blown out of proportion for that, so that Trump can do his racist, bigoted agenda as a KKK member, leader now. With most of the orders, the gentleman announced, oh, you're so sweet, vaguely wording the contents, such as this is to secure the southern border and give the federal government more authority to enforce the border, blah, blah, blah. Yes, as I said in part 1, Stephen Miller is behind all of this. He's a neo-Nazi, self-proclaimed. His agenda is the Nazi agenda. He wants to make America Nazi again. As there was support for Hitler's Nazis in the beginning. It was not until Hitler crossed the line and tampered with our economy and I'm not sure when a KKK leader got busted by abusing his mistress, and that sort of disillusioned the glory of the KKK. But yeah, Congress were KKK members right before World War II, at least. And so then you had Heber J. Grant. But yeah, as Mormons, we had exclusive intel about the dangers of secret combinations, and the church maliciously deceived us, being the secret combination, with that wording that Idaho Chick recognizes. There were several that were worded like this: giving government control. Then T says, not the gentleman, oh, this is a big one, important, don't you think so? Yeah. But notice how he threw in just a whole massive ton of stuff and signed an executive order for the massive long list that I gave you. That's Trump's tactics. He's putting all of that stuff out there, and the only thing I'm hearing about being sued for is the birthright citizenship, possibly the border. I have not heard of any yet, but I'm expecting that to happen. But the birthright citizenship was the first thing that everybody jumped on, because that's Congress's responsibility, not Trump's. And so this is what Trump is. It's his pattern of practice. If you read his book, you know that this is what he does. Throws a whole bunch of stuff out there and sees what he can get away with. The things he can't get away with, he goes to plan B to try to get a compromised, in the eyes of the people, thing passed. But then after he gets things passed, he then goes to the next step, the next phase of his operation for those particular things. And the things that he can't get away with, he does a lesser thing until he can get something through, and he also throws in a whole bunch more new stuff to try to get away with. So that there's so much stuff going on that people don't know which ones to go after when it's him, you dumbasses. Take him out of the equation and you stop the whole thing. It just, oh my God. And so when you have a dam that has 1 billion cracks, you don't say, okay, which is the higher priority crack we need to fix? No, you divert the water, you shut off the dam, you repair the dam altogether. You put in a whole new dam. Why does nobody know this? Does anyone else realize these give him the power to have martial law? Yeah, that's exactly what he ordered at the southern border. And against windmills. The birds are dying. And comedy ensues. Doggy. This isn't freedom. It isn't freedom to choose to allow the government 100% control. Yeah, our election was a fraud. It is not America's fault for being forced to choose communism or fascism, both of which are a violation of our Constitution. That should have never happened in America. And because of the representative republic, that's how they destroyed it, little by little over the decades. And now we're here at this point where nobody even follows the Constitution. They all claim democracy. Find it in the Constitution. You won't. But that's exactly what they're doing, is that the winner says democracy prevailed. We're supposed to be a constitutional republic. You therefore are an enemy going against your oath of office. And thus, 14th Amendment, Section 3, for those who commit an insurrection against the United States of America. Our government has fallen. And so they have the power to sweep in and take out people they think are bad and criminal. Yeah, pregnant women and little kids. So evil. And it's just going to make me cry. You know, I'd use Rachel Maddow's clip about this from before, but apparently Europe thinks they've owned the copyright of MSNBC. Or maybe it's just a YouTube algorithm glitch to attack me. God. Anyway, that is what the justice system is for. Checks and balances. Yeah. Well, when if the government does not do what Trump wants, he will remove the government. He will remove those checks and balances. But the Lake and Riley law has been passed by the Senate, and so expect Trump to sign that today. I don't know what's in it, but it has to do with criminals at the southern border, and thus giving Trump the boost that he needs for his martial law at the southern border. I don't ever want to live in a country, too late, where the government has free reign. You're in Idaho. You're already in a state where the government has free reign. Are your OBGYNs back yet? No? Dear God. While I may consider myself one of the good guys, I'm the good guy. We're putting that in this video. We're putting it in. I'm the good guy. Okay, hope I remember. Okay, so we just have Oaks after this. Without justice and the checks and balances our freedoms afford us, we, all caps, are all in trouble, good and bad. Always good to hear from Idaho Chick. Alrighty. So, Oaks. Start us off with the Book of Mormon, 3rd Nephi chapter 7. And because those of you who are listening already know this information, I don't need to repeat it, right? That we're supposed to be Jewish. Book of Mormon says it's Jewish, therefore you don't use Christian interpretation on it. So when you see Jesus, it's not Christian Jesus. Regardless of whether it's Trinitarian or non-Trinitarian. Again, you cannot use Christianity to judge the Book of Mormon. That would be stupid. Obviously, the Book of Mormon is not Christian. Not your Christian. You got to use Jewish interpretation to judge the Book of Mormon with. And wouldn't you know it, it all works out perfectly. And so, yeah, it would be awesome if Judge Shelby recognized the fraud of the corporation, that the Book of Mormon is Jewish and it doesn't belong to the corporation, who are frauding members, making them believe that we're Christian. But nonetheless, this was supposed to have been 2021, which they kept Trump from getting office. Verse 1. Trump did not obtain the presidency that year. But the national divorce did not occur. I saw in the news that 12 plus Democrat states have sued Trump over birthright citizenship. So already we see that there are 12 states that are in the verge of becoming a national divorce from Trump's America. Let's see if I can find out which states they are. It was supposed to destroy the federal government in 2021, and thus the church would have gotten away with their lawsuits by me that year because of the federal destruction. Would have taken out all federal courthouses, agents throughout the whole nation. No more ICE, no more Homeland, no more NSA and Harriman spying on us. camera isn't frozen, so probably the grumbly video is what we're looking at. More than 20 states. Oh my goodness. 22 states. File. That's the Philadelphia one from yesterday. Okay. I do see including. So let's see what they give us. They love to do advertising on this channel. Not seeing. I see New Jersey. I want a list. And then the ACLU. They didn't give me a list this time. Let's check out Reuters. Whoops, list of states. Here's Fresno, ABC 30. Okay, here we go. Arizona, California, Colorado, Arizona. That's Mormon. Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada. That's Mormon. New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, Washington, Wisconsin, but not Idaho and not Utah. So that is important. Am I able to get you guys? So we need page 2, 3, 2 and 3, okay. Custom 2 to 3. Alrighty, excellent. And we'll save this for the history, records of the history. File for Trump stuff. It is so tough trying to keep up with everything that Trump does, because that's his plan. He just throws out a whole ton of stuff and sees what he can get away with. And so you've got to actually literally be following him like a lapdog to make sure you get it all. Take him out of the equation. That's all you got to do. He's illegal. He's illegitimate. He's not allowed to be president. So, verse 9. This is where they resumed after failing with the previous attempt to destroy the federal government. Now, this secret combination, we've already done the videos, over 8.3K. This is well established. The Book of Mormon is true as prophecy and revelation. They fulfilled it. They failed in 2021 to overthrow the federal government, and murder the chief judge. But McKinley, very curious for him. Maybe they didn't realize what they were doing. They just thought they were sticking it to Obama. But interesting use of a president that was assassinated right before the Civil War. Interesting. Now this secret combination, which had brought so great iniquity upon the people, Idaho chick knows, she told us, did gather themselves together, and did place at their head a man whom they did call Jacob. Jacob is Hebrew for usurper. See what the author is doing here? Very clever. And they did call him their king. because he's usurping the government. And they call him king. So they did not establish a king that first year, which was 2021. Technically 2020, but it's the religious calendar year, as I went over with you before on the weekend, I think I did it. The Jewish religious calendar, not the civil calendar. And so with the fall of the government, Trump was supposed to be made king over the MAGA states that seceded from the government. But since they saw to it, as Oaks confessed, that Trump would be put in 2024, we see how this has been fulfilled despite their failures. And so even though this was supposed to be 2021, because we're not even into 2022 yet, which is down in 13, thus ended the 30th year. And so 14, it came to pass in the 31st year that they were divided into tribes. Oh. Yeah, okay. So the election was 2020, and so after January 6th, they then in 2021, they were supposed to divide into tribes, states. Interesting. Good job. And so yeah, they had to bump this up to 2024's election. So now it's 2025 that we're looking at for when Trump destroys the federal government and America as a divided nation. The end of the Jewish religious calendar year is the 29th of March. The 30th is the first day of the year. So verse 14 now becomes the 30th of March this year. The first year of the first new year of the first year of the religious calendar. And so the 29th is when it ends. And so after the 29th, and so thus Oaks with Easter's threat. See what's going on here? See how the Book of Mormon already knows this information. See how Oaks is conforming and complying despite the failures of 2021. Okay? Fascinating. So, I'm going to take a station identification break, and we'll be back to go over Oaks now. So, to repeat the information, for those of you who don't have associative memory or not keeping notes to make sure you get the chronological order in place, we start with 1838 as Joseph Smith writes his visionary accounts. And in the second vision, he writes that they that come shall burn them, adding to Malachi. This means that it's not Jesus and a second coming that's going to cause the burning. This is what the church does not want you to understand, because they've been lying to you repetitively that it's Jesus who appeared to Joseph Smith, and therefore it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, when it was Willard Richards who wrote it in after Joseph was dead. The name of the church was the Church of the Latter-day Saints. This was never, the Church of Jesus Christ was never the name of Joseph's church, because we're not Christian. Mormons do not want to understand that and get evil disposed and designing militant people because of it. First one. And so the War of the Danites began after that. Got Joseph Smith locked up in Liberty Jail by false brethren. And he would get out, and on 19 July 1840, added to his 1831 revelation, section 101, a parable that he gave, prophesying of the events of the latter days, of the fall of the great and abominable church. And he talks about it is in the context of the collapse of the American government, the federal government. The Constitution would be on the brink of ruin, and it's already ruined. And so Joseph Smith was wrong. False prophet. And says that Brigham Young would be that enemy. That's why Brigham Young never published this in his Doctrine and Covenances. The United States of America shut down, dissolved Brigham Young's religion and criminal operation of the Perpetual Immigration Fund. 1887, the Edmunds-Tucker Act. They never reincorporated a religion. This is important for Mormons to know. The FLDS Church of Warren Jeffs likewise filed articles of incorporation, but for not just a corporation, but also for the religion. As the dispute occurred, when he said he gives up being the leader of the corporation and transferred the corporate authority to another person. But then he decided while in prison that he still is the religious leader and started giving prophecies, orders from prison. And there was a dispute over whether he can, because he's denounced being the CEO. And that's where the lawyers stepped in to defend it and say, no, he gave up being the corporate leader, he's still the religious leader. But this is not the case with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because there's only articles of incorporation for the corporation. It is not for a religion. There are no religious articles of incorporation. It was dissolved with the Edmunds-Tucker Act. They've been lying and deceiving us. So the articles of incorporation for the corporation makes the claim that the religion is still intact when it's not. And thus the members are now changed to where they have no voice in the church. They are the cash cows to fund the criminal operations of the corporation. If only Judge Shelby would get an email sent to him, if the clerks would give it to him, that would explain this. We're at 50 minutes in. got exclusive information, guys. They may reject it. I don't know. They're not going to show up to office for another 2 hours. But that case needs some clarifications that neither party is presenting to Judge Shelby. Anyway, okay, so this church is a complete fraud. We're not a religion, never, since it was disincorporated. The church had to fraud the membership into believing that the church still existed. And they've done it. They've succeeded. You've got Judge Shelby who's being told the religion is still intact, and they're using that as their excuse to not be judged in a civil court. Religious freedom, you can't judge us. That's their excuse. Seriously, my hell. Oh, I forgot Thomas B. Marsh. So yeah, 1838. We gotta go back to 1838 before the church gets dissolved under Brigham Young. That was incorporating the religion in 1852. If he is the true legal successor, then he doesn't need to incorporate the religion in 1852. So big problems there that Mormons are not realizing. And yes, that was put in the letter, by the way. 1852. So yeah, I have dealings with the federal court. They know me. Pharaoh said no, but they know me. Thomas B. Marsh, in 1838, after Joseph Smith gives his first vision with the right name of the church. Thomas B. Marsh is threatened by the Danites to join up in this war. He sees a particular town that was raided by the Danites, and he's horrified of what he witnessed. That these Danites went into this town, burned it to the ground, murdered the people, raped the women, stole their property, and put it into the bishop at Adam-on-Diamond, section 117, and that forged document scandal. Because section 117 is Joseph Smith condemning Newell K. Whitney for being a part of the Danites, and that Joseph is asking him to be the bishop in Adam-on-Diamond, the secret headquarters of the Danites. But Thomas B. Marsh is told by the Danites that Joseph Smith is the leader of the Danites. And so his affidavit to the governor, mixed with section 117, raises a whole bunch of alarming questions and red flags. And so when you understand that they lied to Thomas B. Marsh about Joseph Smith, that it's actually Brigham Young, now it all makes sense. And so the Danites told him they were going to overthrow the government of the United States of America and then the world in the latter days. And that's why there is an extermination order. These Danites are terrorists. Still to this day. And so now we can skip back in time, or go forward in time, to Joseph Fielding Smith, Sr., as he's before the Articles of Incorporation of Heber J. Grant. And as the affidavit says that the Danites openly say they are the enemy, that they're going to do it. Joseph Fielding Smith Sr., in The Way to Perfection, says that it's not the Danites of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who are going to do it, but Jesus. You need to understand, he was taken by the care of Heber as a boy. And so for him to be a full-grown man, now leading the church, he's now telling this threat to America, but now it's Jesus who's the national security threat. So when Trump issued the Space Force, I did the videos about Trump preparing for the second coming of Jesus to shoot him out of the sky. Trump will not have Jesus take over his kingdom. And Rapture-palooza ensued. And so, yes, he even puts it in the context that it's a secret combination. Nobody's supposed to know about it. A sneeze coming on. There's most likely a backup. Pause here. Oy vey. And yet, this exposure of the church in 2021 really put my life in jeopardy. The church failed. You need to understand context here. I did my thing in 2020. The church did their thing, keeping Trump out of the presidency for that election, and then see if they can overthrow the government. But they failed to overthrow the government. And so, 2021 did not produce the desired results that they were expecting. And so they had backed off until I do that video after the October conference of 2021. And all hell broke loose against me. And that's why I'm now here in this apartment building since 2023. Coming on 2 years, February 20th to the 24th. If you've heard the dream of the 2 apartments that I had way back in December 2014. And so Joseph Fielding Smith was kept out of the loop, as he's now turning it into a religious interpretation of Scripture beyond what other Christian groups are talking about. Evangelicals talk about the second coming of Jesus and his burning of people and establishing the kingdom. But the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is different. And so for Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. to now mask his religion's threat, national security threat, to overthrow the government, calling it a secret combination, but putting Jesus in place of it, putting Lucifer in place of the president. And so now, because of the failure under Biden, they're now doing it under Trump. And I don't think Trump fully understands this. Trump is now Lucifer. Jesus is now Nelson. Trump is going to give the government to Nelson, or Oaks if Nelson were to die. We're still waiting on the curse of Joseph Smith. You see what's going on here? Because of the failure in 2021, it's now being pushed to now. And so the characters are now different. Biden is not Lucifer anymore. Trump is now president. Trump is now Lucifer. Trump is going to hand over the government to the church. That's why you need to pay attention to the stock market. Because when Trump starts his tariff war, and thus military war, the stocks are going to tank. The church is going to pull out the money. That's why it's being puffed up again. Trump is giving time to puff up the stock market before they pull out the money and run. And so it's not just going to be Bezos, Musk, and Gates, and all those other big stock companies, but the stockholders. The church is the major stockholder. They're purposely insider trading to get money from all of this. That's what the church did in 2020. The same pattern is in practice today. News reports showed that major stockholders made major profits, record-breaking profits for 2024. That's the church. And nobody covered it in local news. So again, Oaks got leaked. He did it on the 14th of March, 2020. Before anything happened that year. And saying that what is about to happen for 2020 is a test run. And he, again, like Joseph Fielding Smith Sr., says it's Jesus, not him, even though he's saying it. If you're saying it, it's you. It's not Jesus, it's you. He fooled those mission presidents. And that one mission president from Australia put it in the newsletter, and Sister Jessica felt so impressed by the Spirit to put it on her mission webpage. And then Mindy saw it and passed it on to another YouTube video creator, who the Mormon YouTube employee recommended his video to me to mock me and say the church is true, Travis. Oh, is it? Is it? And comedy ensues, and the national security threat is back in operation. Because I could never understand what happened. The scriptures were clear. What happened? What's going on? Why? I want to be in Zion. What's going on? And so, yeah, after doing my thing in 2020, it was like, what? I part the waters and nothing? And so, Idaho Chick is also responsible for bringing to my attention the prophecy of George Albert Smith, that there would be no president put on the throne, that there would be a nuclear blast. And that did not happen. Trump threatened it, but didn't go through with it. Losing the election, he was pissed and wanted to nuke America. Out of revenge. He didn't. He failed. they failed to overthrow the government. And so George Albert Smith got rebooted to 2024's election. And I found out after Thanksgiving, so there were only 2 holidays left after the election. And Christmas came and went. I did the videos about Hanukkah, which Joseph Smith translation version, Revelation chapter 12, 3 and 4 get combined into 4, with 2018's version of it, 3 and 4 from Revelation 12, not the Joseph Smith translation. After already doing other Jewish holidays for Mormons, to be reminded that it's coming. Be prepared, but still nothing. And so yes, then New Year's. And we did get something. An Islamic State terrorist attack in New Orleans that is now under like a foot of snow, along with Texas this morning and yesterday. And it didn't produce the big results that he had intended. He was caught on camera planting other explosive devices. But because it got prevented, it wasn't as big as it was intended to be. Now, granted, that's not a nuclear attack. It is unclear if there were others that were supposed to do something on that day, and they just gave up and didn't do it. It's unclear. We do know that Islam is a threat to America. They are terrorists. They are not a religion, but they again use religion as a front for their criminal operations. And the church, I exposed, was funding terrorism. Islamic State terrorism. Hamas terrorism. Palestine terrorism. With their giving machines and putting in Kieran after the death of Ballard, with the sun shall be darkened and turn to blood, stars fall from heaven, scripture prophecy 2. And so the next day, on the 2nd of January, Oakes comes out and says, we're rebooting the threat to you guys to Easter. Look forward to Easter. You'll be resurrected from the ash. And so this coincides with what the Book of Mormon is talking about, that 2021 was supposed to be the fall of America and the fall of the federal government, as it's now being rebooted to 2025. And so this is why it's interesting that Trump hesitated to go all in with the raids in every state and at the border, bringing in the military. Why he hesitated to immediately begin the tariffs and the military war against Panama, Greenland, and Canada. And pushing the tariffs, at least, to the 1st of February. Because he's taking a systematic timing approach here. He is showing weakness because of a malicious criminal intent for his plot. And so that's why it was very curious that he was using McKinley for the couple of things that he talked about. And so, but Biden's out, so there can't be an assassination of a president unless it's Trump, which means Trump may not be aware of that either. But notice he tried to claim, oh, they shot my ear off. I am here by the mercy of God to put MAGA forth upon this nation. See how it's all fitting together? Trump thinks he's the chosen one, but the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints calls him Lucifer. That Nelson, followed by Oakes, would be Jesus. Trump is going to hand it over to the church. Now, there are different ways to do that. A literal way where Trump does a press conference and says, I'd like to hand over the government to Nelson. You know, he did that to Putin in Helsinki. Putin was very strong and persuasive. He recommended I send all our intelligence agents to work with him. I think that's a good idea. Oh my God. So again, the Russian ambassador to America came out yesterday and said that Trump had correspondence. Oh my God. We're all doomed. But as the more likely scenario is that with the Trump tariffs and the wars and the civil wars and the contentions that go on and the lawsuits, Democrat states, all 22 of them, dear God, almost half the nation, are all going to split off from Trump. We secede from the nation. You are not our president. You are not following the Constitution. We're out. We're doing our own thing. And thus the MAGA states will get together. Trump is still their president. And governors would be in charge of their individual states. This would allow the church, during this division, to claim Utah as a sovereign nation. Governor Cox would then hand over the government to the church. So Governor Cox would then be Lucifer. Oh, Governor Cox, if only you knew. You're being used. And so, yeah, then the church would get their kingdom back. And still sort of conform to the Book of Mormon plot that they had planned. So this is what we're looking at now. This is the danger that we have facing us. As the church is a criminal operation. And I've told you, the church must fall. There are different ways it can fall, but it must be turned on itself. It already has. The lawsuit of Mormons and former Mormons against the church. And so that can conform to the Book of Mormon, but there's supposed to be bloodshed, which may happen if Judge Shelby says the church has to be dissolved. You'll get Mormons who get militant. Said no! And an assassination of a chief judge in Utah. not just with the federal government, maybe. So pay attention to what may be happening here in the future. Because with the fall, there must be a transition of all assets of the church to the man like Moses, the one mighty and strong, the man, the Messiah ben David, whom Joseph Smith says is a Mormon. And that's obviously me, if you run the test. Not with your Christian bias. I obviously am not Jesus. I'm just a man like Joseph Smith was, just like you are. Except you're not a man, Idaho chick. we need to put you in the thumbnail picture. Idaho. Okay. And so, this is important to be aware of what potentially is coming. It's the church that's behind this. And so this is why I pay attention to the church news. This is why I pay attention to local and national news and world news, combined with my knowledge of associative memory of the scriptures, that I can help you through this if you listen to me and be aware of it. Because once that transfer occurs, then I can put out the Section 133 call to come to Babylon, or to come to Zion. Get out of Babylon, come to Zion. Come to Babylon! Orgy sex! Crime! That's what the church is doing. And then we can build Zion. And so I was deeply concerned that with Trump, there would be a mass exodus of Mormons, as he's ordered it, but ICE is not doing the full scale that they threatened to do. We're not seeing their results yet. There have been no ICE agents raiding this building or any of the other buildings in the complex yet. He said they were going to do it. Here they are. Why aren't you getting them? And the churches, and the church office building, and the administration building, welfare square, distribution center, workplaces, other places. Yeah, all of this. We're seeing how it's being fulfilled. That their plot from 200 years ago is playing out. And because they're just mortal men, there are errors in their plan. You know, when you use Christian interpretation, you tend to turn people into supernatural beings. Stick with the Jews. They're grounded in reality and in the hard sciences. Okay? And so, yeah, it does seem that somehow Trump is supposed to postpone things until after the 29th of March. And it's still 2 months away. But, yeah, Trump could have easily caused it to be premature. And so his hesitation is important to pay attention to. The stock market is important to pay attention to. Okay? We got everything? And so, yeah, if you guys get deported under Trump, it's going to be tougher for me to try to get you back to Zion. because now everybody will be out of America. And then I'll have to try to get you back as well as all of the others. And to obtain Zion would require the transfer of assets to me to make that happen. But with the fall of the government would fall the economy. So the assets would have to be material assets rather than liquid money, monetary assets, because money will be worthless. All of the hoarded money of the church was intended to be their funding for Zion, I guess. But my intention is that there is no monetary system of economy. But under Caesar, render under Caesar what is Caesar's. And so we do have to use money until we can turn ourselves into self-sustaining, self-sufficient, so that we no longer need money. The system is in place to perpetually care for every member, as every member is contributing to the storehouses of Zion, not the coffers of the leaders. So, but yeah, under Trump, there's no way we can get people from outside of America into America now, as he shut off the southern border, for example. And so this is going to be a delicate operation to navigate. So, a big event this year, because they failed in 2021. Alrighty, guess we're done.